All right, share my screen. All right, so let's see here. We got Go Guardian up and running. So if you have questions, please ask those questions there. Today is Friday, September 11th. And to look over our announcements, make sure you're checking your grade book. We're actually going to talk about a specific grade that I need you to look at in a second, but also paying attention to your knows and need to knows. Today, we're really focusing on those need to knows concerning your future profession. This is a very important day for that because you're going to actually gather the information you're going to use in your career pathway brochure. And the better you do today with that work, the more success you'll have later. So the hard work you do today will make your future much easier. Okay. So let's scroll down. So I'm sure you hearing today is September 11th. You realize that 9/11 is the date of remembrance and the date that the attack in New York City occurred. And I'm sure that throughout your schooling, you've heard about this day often. Every time we talk about it freshman year with students, they say that they've heard it again and they've talked about it a lot. And I'm glad that that's something that's being remembered because it's something that in our lifetime, in people that are alive and still, it happened in their lifetime. So I want to talk about it shortly, and I'm giving an extra credit opportunity for this. So this is outside the project. It's extra credit. You do not have to do this, nor should you do this if you have other assignments you need to complete. So if you are behind on an assignment or not finished with assignment, don't do this. This is built in. It works out that it's Friday. You kind of do it as extra over the weekend or when you have time. I will leave this assignment open over the next week or so. So if you get free time, if you're caught up, this is your moment to kind of get this done. So the extra credit has to do with 9/11 flashbulb moment. And let's talk about what that means. If you go down, it is in our project, so it's easy to find, but it's called 9/11 flashbulb moment extra credit assignment. So let's look at that. So September 11, 2001 was a day in which many people can remember very well. This is known as a flashbulb memory, in which a person can remember specific feelings, details, and moments from the event. For this assignment, interview a relative that has had a flashbulb memory of the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. Ask them questions about where they were, how they felt when they heard about the attack, what they were feeling, thinking, and doing at the time. Okay. Take notes on the answers to the question and write a summary of their responses in the Dropbox below. This doesn't have to be in paragraph form. I'm okay if you put the question in and what they answer and a question what they answer. And obviously, the more detail you give me, the more points that are available to you. Let me say this again. Do not do this in place of a different assignment. Get your assignments done. This is just a little bit of extra credit, something quick. I'm looking for 5 questions just to get a conversation going. To talk about my experience, I was in 2001, I was in high school, and I would have been, I think, my sophomore year of high school. I was sitting in my math class when it happened, and it came on the news, and my teacher immediately heard from another teacher, and they were a very stern teacher, math teacher, and no distractions. So she's like, "We'll turn it on for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to turn it off." So she turned it on, and it was the first plane had crashed into one of the towers, and we were all like, "We need to watch. This is history," so on and so forth. And at the time, we didn't know that it was an attack. We thought it was just a terrible accident. And she was like, "Well, you can watch the news later. Turn the TV off." But other classes around the building kept watching. So I did not witness the second plane hit the building while other classes watched that happen. I didn't see that happen, but we heard the yells from around. And I remember in that moment, I knew something terrible had happened, and I can almost feel the chills still. And that's why this is a flashbulb memory for people, is because it's so intense. You remember every minute of it, every second of it, the feeling you had. So I have that. I remember that moment. And then my teacher turned it back on and said, okay, this is something we need to watch. And we watched it the rest of class. And then the rest of that week was very strange. And I think they canceled school for a couple of days, and we were all talking about like what this meant and if we were going to war and who did it and what happened. And everybody was glued to TV, and our nation felt very close at that time. Very, very pulled together. So it's an interesting opportunity for you all to interview someone, a family member. Most of your parents were probably around my age or older. So they were most likely definitely can remember this moment. Grandparents would definitely remember this moment, aunts and uncles, stuff like that. So find one person, interview them, and at least have a conversation about it, because it's interesting to hear like what they experienced. So find somebody, interview them, and just write it right into the Google, the Dropbox. Doesn't have to be, you can make it a Google Doc and link it in there. Just make sure it's shared with me. But you can just write it right into the Dropbox. And there you go.
It's interesting.
Go ahead, Miss Stockdale.
It's interesting. You have to mute that. Yeah. It's interesting. There's the different perspectives that you will find, because Mr. Richard is significantly younger than me. So I was actually teaching my first year when the attacks happened, and pregnant with my oldest child. So seeing it, so he's seeing it from a student perspective, and I'm seeing it from a grown-up perspective. And I say that with parentheses because I was 22 at the time, so I was still very young, but pregnant and teaching. And it was. I just want to use the word surreal to describe that, because I was teaching a classroom, and it ended up that my TV was the only one in the school building that actually could get the news. And we saw everything transpire in my classroom. We turned it on. They said, oh, the Twin Towers have been attacked. So we turned on the TV, and it was the only one that we could see. And then going home, like, you read about World War II and about rationing food and coupons for food and that sort of thing. And the grocery stores were packed where people were stockpiling food because they were worried that we wouldn't have enough. And I lived in Northern Kentucky at the time. There was a train train tracks by my house. And if you live close to the tracks, you notice that after a while, you don't really notice the trains. Or if you live close to the airfield here, you kind of ignore the planes after a while and the noise. Those things ceased. So when I say it was surreal, it was very surreal. Also, being pregnant, getting ready to bring a baby into the world with some craziness, kind of like the pandemic right now that you all are experiencing. My friends are pregnant and having babies in this time, and there's worries about how to protect their baby. Well, am I bringing my baby into the world during a time of war? Interestingly enough, the president did declare war the day after my birthday, later on in March. So, those are just kind of some key moments that just stick out in my mind. But the different perspectives of student to teacher to, if you were asked someone my parents' age, they would have a different perspective on it as well. So I encourage you all to talk to people over the weekend and just ask them what they think, what they remember, big things that they remember. Because, yes, it was on the news a lot, but we all see it from a different lens. And so, and we were all in different places. Mr. Richard are you from Owensboro?
Yes.
So you were in Owensboro. I was in Warsaw, Kentucky when this happened, which is up near the Kentucky Speedway, for those of you all that might watch NASCAR racing. That's where I was teaching in Gallatin County. And so, we just have a very different perspective on things. Some things will overlap and be the same, but I think that, I'm finding that the older I get, I was sitting here, there's a student in my office right now, and I was like, oh, you weren't even born. So, you're going to live through these memories. And Mr. Richard's right. We were watching history unfold, literally. So, okay, onward and upward. Let's shift gears and get busy.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing, you all are living in a flashbulb moment right now. You will never forget 2020, like the pandemic and having to cancel school and wearing masks. Someday you're going to be sitting there like we are as adults, older folk, talking to younger generation that wasn't alive during the time and saying, this is what it was like, and this is what we remember, and this is what we experienced. So it's really interesting because sometimes in the moment you don't step back and think, and I did it during 9/11, but you don't step back and think, wow, someday another generation is going to come along, and I'm going to talk about this history with them. So it's kind of cool to step back and think that you're living in that moment. This is your flashbulb moment that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And sadly, a lot of times these are tragic things, but there's also very happy flashbulb moments in your life. Like I will never, and I'm sure Ms. Stockdale would say the same, I will never forget the flashbulb moment of my children being born, or me graduating from college, being the first one in my family to do so. Those are wonderful moments. You do have very happy moments that are flashbulb moments that you'll remember every second. I remember the first day I started teaching at OIA and the first class I ever had. So there's obviously happy ones, but this is a world one that everyone remembers. And it's really interesting. So definitely be talking to parents, to friends, to family members about that. So, all right. Yeah, let's get to work here. I'm going to share my screen again.
Mr. Richard?
Yes.
I got a question.
Sure.
So can we just, for the 9/11, can we just write the story from their perspective, or do we actually have to interview?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can write the story from their perspective, but obviously you need to talk to them to get that story. Don't make up a story. I don't want it to be fictional, based on history, but I want you to, like, if you talk to mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whoever it is, get their story, and then you can write their story. That's fine. No problem at all.
All right.
Great.
How many questions?
I mean, to get full credit, I would love to see like at least 5 questions with like a detailed answer to get full credit. But if you do like 2 or 3, you'll get partial extra credit. If you do only 1, you'll get maybe a point or 2. So again, this is optional assignment. You do not have to do it. It's not part of the project, but if you want to help your grade, cushion it a little bit, it's out there for you because it's a really important historical event in our history. So, okay. So let's talk about what we're doing today. That's number 2, begin work on benchmark 3, gathering resource information. So the way project-based learning works is you can't move on to the next benchmark until you have the other benchmarks done. That's why we call them benchmarks, because they have to be done for you to go on. So let's look at our benchmarks really quick to make sure you know if you've done it. So benchmark 1 was selecting a profession. So you couldn't do benchmark 2 unless you selected a profession, okay? So you have to have a profession selected. Everyone in this class should have a profession that they're researching, okay? That was a really easy benchmark. Benchmark 2, there are quite a few of you, or I'd say 90% of the class is 100% done with benchmark 2, but there's about 10% of you all that did not get every source that you needed. So in benchmark 2, you had to have, to open this up and show you, you had to have 4 sources, okay? You had to have the career information from your free career test. You had to have your website too, the bls.gov done, a research website from that. You had to find a college that you could go to or a training program that you could go to for your profession. And then you needed a hiring website. If you go to your grade book and you look at your grade for benchmark 2, I have those all graded and I've given you feedback. If you didn't get 100% on it, then I gave you feedback saying this is what you're missing. You cannot do benchmark 3 without those 4 sources, okay? Now the CREP test wasn't a benchmark because it was just testing those sources. So you need to make sure that's done, but you didn't have to have that done to make sure you can do benchmark 3. You should have it done to make sure you have good sources. So let's talk about benchmark 3. You are using the sources from benchmark 2 in benchmark 3. So we're building on each other. And project-based learning, we don't just learn something and we're done with it, okay? We build upon it, okay? So you're going to use the 4 sources from benchmark 2 that you did in the CRAP test as well on benchmark 3. So the same thing here as we've done for the last 5 assignments. You're going to create an attachment from template. So you can go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go into student mode so you can see how to do this. So you're going into that assignment. You're creating an attachment. You should already know how to do it, but I'm going to show you again just to make sure. So you go into benchmark 3, create an attachment. It will download the attachment and go ahead and put it in the file. Go ahead and hit submit my work, okay? Go ahead and hit it so you don't forget to do that. Hit submit my work, okay? Then you can open up the document right here, hit open, and it will bring you to benchmark 3, the document, okay? Now, some of you all are going in and doing that, and you're not seeing a 0 right away until I get grades in. I'm trying to get grades in as fast as I can. But just make sure that you're finishing these. And if you start this and then something interrupts you and you have to close out your computer or something like that, you just go back to the assignment and hit that button again. It takes you right back to it. You don't have to go and search in your Google Docs for it, okay? It's always right there, okay? And that's the document that you've been editing, okay? So let's talk about this assignment. We're going to go through it step by step and talk about it, okay? So I would have your benchmark 2 open as well whenever you're working on this assignment. But before you go and open all that, let's look at this together, okay? So here's the instructions at the top. Number 1, you will be using the sources that you found in benchmark 2 for this assignment. So the 4 websites that you found that are here in the copy and paste. So one website is the Your Free Career Test website that you found for your career, the BLS.gov one that you found for your career, the college or training program that you found for your career, and then the hiring website that you found for your career. You'll need those for benchmark 3. So, number 2, copy and paste your links into the areas below. So source number 1, source number 2, source number 3, source number 4. I call them websites on benchmark 2. That's fine. But you're going to take website 1 from here, from this copy and paste, and you're going to put it under source number 1. Okay? Your website 1, source number 1. You're going to do the same thing for number 2. Now, I put these 2 together because both of these sources cover career and skills needed in the description of your profession or your source, okay? So both of these websites, you're going to go and find this information, okay? And if you have questions, now is the time to stop me, okay? Okay, so number 3, all information that is gathered must be paraphrased. I'm going to bold that, underline that. I'm going to make it bigger, okay? Must be paraphrased. Now let's talk about what paraphrased means, okay? Anybody jump into the Google Meet. What does paraphrase mean? Y'all know what that means. What does it mean?
To copy and paste.
No.
No, the opposite. I mean,
the opposite. Yeah. Don't copy. Yeah. The opposite of copy and pasting. Okay. So putting it in your own words. Okay. So paraphrase means to put into your own word. Okay. Whoever's not muted, please mute. Thank you. So paraphrase means to put in your own words. The reason that you are doing this at this point is because if you copy and paste into this document is what you're going to use to make your career brochure, okay, or your professional brochure, okay? So if you are copy and pasting into this, then you're going to be plagiarizing whenever you make your brochure, okay? You do not want to plagiarize because you will fail the assignment if you are plagiarizing. So you cannot do that, okay? Unless you have quotation marks around it, but we're not going to do that right now. You're not going to need to do that for this assignment. We'll do that later. So put it in your own words, okay? So you're looking at work environment, hours of work, vacation time, physical demands, benefits, projected salary, starting wage, median wage, retirement. The best website for that is going to be source number 1 and source number 2. We haven't looked at source number 2 that much. Let's look at source number 2, this bls.gov. I'm going to look up teacher. Obviously, you all have done whatever you were looking at. So I'm going to look at high school teacher. And you're going to notice this website is amazing for this first source, okay? Also, if you did the CRAP test on this, this should have gotten a 100% on the CRAP test. It has great dates on it. It was modified. Last time it was modified was Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. That's 10 days ago. That's amazing. The authority on this is it's the government doing this, okay? And I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I can't trust government. But if the government's putting out statistics, it is as far as authority goes, it is a great website, okay? Just a great website. Now, if we start looking for this information, you're going to find a lot of your information that you need on this first page, okay? Now, this is high school teacher. Yours is going to be welder or astronaut or engineer or surgeon or accountant or whatever it might be that you're searching. I'm just showing you mine. But you can see these tabs here. So summary, what do they do? Work environment, how to become one, pay, job outlook, state and area data, similar occupation. This tells you so much about this job, okay? Now, this is national data, not just Kentucky. This is for the whole nation. That's okay. So we're going to go back to the actual benchmark 3, and it says, what's the work environment? So I can go to this bls.com, and it literally has its own tab that says work environment. So there's not a ton of information here. I'm going to read through this, and I'm going to pull out what I think's most important, okay? So I might see something that says high school teachers had about 1 million jobs in 2019, the largest employer. Most states have tenure laws, which provide job security after a certain number of years of salary. Okay, so I like this second line. It says job security, okay? There's tenure laws. If I don't know what tenure means, you can look that up. If you have things that you don't understand, look those words up. So tenure means that you can't be fired without just cause, okay? They can't just come up and say, we're going to let you go because we don't need you anymore, okay? They have to have reasons to fire you is a really simple explanation for that. But I like this second part, which provide job security after a certain number of years of satisfactory classroom teaching. So I'm going to go to benchmark 3, and I'm going to put on this first one, I'm going to put, and you can do bullets. I encourage you to do bullets. So the work environment provides let's go back and read how it says it. Job security, okay? Provides, and it's okay to use some of the words, job security through the ability to become tenured, okay? And I missed the I. Ability to become tenured, okay? So I'm just putting it in my own words, okay? And then we can continue reading through that. Teaching can be stressful. Some schools have large classes and lack important teaching tools, such as current technology and up-to-date textbooks. Occasionally, teachers must cope with unmotivated or disrespectful students. None of our students are ever unmotivated or disrespectful, luckily. Some states are developing teacher mentoring programs to teacher develop courses to help with the challenges of being a teacher. So right there, I'm going to put in teaching can be very challenging because of school materials, disrespectful students, and a stressful atmosphere. You can see I'm putting into my own words what I'm getting from the BLS website, okay? And then we have hours of work, vacation time, physical demands. All of that we can find in this information. Work schedules are right here. Pay is right here. Job outlook's here. I mean, you got a ton of information. What do they do as teachers? Summary. So you're just pulling information from this, okay? And you're trying to kind of answer each of these questions, okay? So that first part should be pretty easy. And then using, and I'm going to erase this so that whenever people use this, they don't have to worry about that. You can also use the other source that we used, which was from the freecareertest.com. Now, this one doesn't have as much information, but if I looked at teacher again on here, and of course you're looking at your profession, you can see what does a high school teacher do, how to become a teacher, job description. There's a video you can watch and kind of write down notes from that. So both of these are great websites to use for that first one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Elijah, do you mind muting for me?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and then, all right, let's keep looking at this. Sorry, I'm bouncing around. Okay, so that's the first section. Let's go to the next section, okay? That is source number 3, which is your college. So in Benchmark 2, you should have found a college or a program. It doesn't have to be a college. Some people found like a training program in which you can get extra education or be prepared for your profession, okay? So the first one is your education level or training needed for the profession. So these are abbreviations for different degrees that you could get for your profession, okay? Associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, doctorates, PhDs. These are all different levels of degrees that you can get. And each job is different, okay? You can actually find this information on here, typical entry-level education, bachelor's degree. So the BLS, although it's not at the college, you can see that right there. So for a teacher, you need a bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year college degree, okay? For the average person, it takes 4 years for them to finish that, okay? Now you can click on that little link there, and I'll show you where it takes us. It takes you to a little website that kind of teaches you about the 4 major degree levels and what it looks like, okay? So this is the abbreviations right here. So associate's degrees, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctoral degree, or doctorate. So an associate's degree takes 2 years. A bachelor's degree takes 4 years. A master's degree takes 1 to 2 years. And a doctorate takes 2 and more years, depending on what kind of doctor you're becoming, okay? I currently have my master's degree. So I went to high school, graduated, went to school for 4 years. I actually went to school for 1 year at UK, but I ended up graduating. So I was at EKU, but 4 years in college. And then I went and got my master's degree from Eastern Kentucky University for 2 years. Now, some of y'all might be thinking, well, it said to be a teacher, you only needed a bachelor's degree. You only need, and you do, minimum, you need a bachelor's degree. But you can get more degrees and get paid more as you get a higher degree level, okay?
Like I have a rank 1.
Right, so Miss Stockdale has a rank 1, so she's got a higher level education range than I do. So I need to spend another year to get that. Now we're getting a little technical into like teaching, but that's the general. And then Dr. Clark, who teaches our chemistry classes and some other classes, he's a doctor. He has his doctorate. So that's why he's Dr. Clark. And he's gotten his doctorate. For the simple understanding that you need is you can go to the BLS or to the college and say, to become a welder, to become a physical therapist, to become an astronaut, whatever it might be, what minimal degree do I need? And you can find that out, okay? So that's that first thing. The second is, how many years will it take to finish your education? So if you are a bachelor's degree, it's going to take you 4 years after high school, okay? If it's a master's degree, 6 years. If it's a doctorate, so if you're going to become a doctor, it could be 8 to 12 years, of education. The next one is cost of education, training, or tuition. So this is where you're going to need to go to the website. So let's say that I went EKU. I went to Eastern Kentucky University. So whatever website that you're using, you're going to need to go to it. I'm a colonel. Mr. Hunley is also graduated from Eastern Kentucky University, so he's a colonel as well. So he could talk to you about. Now he graduated about 20 some odd years before me, so the school was very different from that. So on these websites, the easiest thing to do, and most of these websites are searchable, is go up into the right corner and look at this. You can see I've already, because I'm a student there, I've already searched some of this stuff like rank change, what this class does my ETL 806 impact my GPA, because I got an A in it and I wanted it to help my GPA. I need chair approval for something. But you go up here and you search tuition and see what we come up with, okay? Tuition cost, admissions, EKU. So I can see here that how much it costs for me per semester to go to EKU. So it cost me $4,633 as a in Kentucky resident per semester. So that's half a year to go to EKU. So a full year is somewhere around $9,000. Okay. Now, there's a lot of other things like online students and stuff like that. You just need to get like, what is a full-time Kentucky resident if you live in Kentucky? Now, if you're looking outside of a state and you're looking at a school, that might be out-of-state students. You can see it's almost double for an out-of-state student. That's most state colleges are going to be that way, because if you're a citizen within that state, you get a better deal on that. But the big thing is you're just looking at the number, and I'm giving you lots of information here. To simplify, you're just looking at how much does it cost to go to the school that you're researching for a year, okay? So benchmark 3, I'll put in here the cost for tuition at EKU or Eastern Kentucky University for 1 year is $9,000. I'm going to simplify and it's about $9,000. Okay. Now that doesn't count the books and the living on campus and stuff like that and all that. It cost me about $15,000 a year to go to EKU. So at the end of my degree, it cost me $60,000 to be able to go to Eastern Kentucky University. Now, I got loans and stuff like that, and I'm just kind of talking right now. This doesn't have to do with Benchmark 3, but I got loans, and I had some help from very little help, but a little bit of help from my parents, and then I also had a scholarship that I used through my Keys money. We'll talk about that more as you get closer to graduating, but this is the stuff you need to be thinking about right now, because we're trying, OIA, your high school is trying to get you ready for that next step, okay? So the next one is requirements for education, school, or training. So how to get into your school. So that I can go back and say, let's see, I don't know if this will work, but let's try minimum ACT score for admission.
Lucas asked a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, we can answer it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you mute that? He just wondered if we were still using student loans, and that's something you pay over a course of time. I've been in education long enough that there were programs that forgave some of my loans, and so I didn't have to pay. I paid maybe, I think I borrowed about $60,000, and I ended up only paying about $10,000. So there are programs out there that help you. So Lucas, to answer your question, I'm old and I've been in education 18 years and I no longer pay on student loans. Okay. But earlier in my career, I did.
So I am only 6 years into my career and I am still paying on them.
And that's a legitimate question too.
Yeah. I'm still paying on them. And that is something that you need to think about and really need to talk to your parents about or counselors about is, how do I plan for that future? And I don't want to scare anyone away from college because I'm talking about these big numbers, but it's a reality that you need to be thinking about. And yes, I am still paying on them, and I am also working on something that's going to help me to pay that off. Now, the other side of it is, because Ms. Stockdale and I went to college, we can show you some graphs where going to get your associate's degree or a bachelor's degree or master's, or your rank 1 as Ms. Stockdale, or your doctorate, you're going to make a lot more money in your lifetime because of those higher degrees. Okay. That doesn't necessarily mean college is for everyone. There are also great programs that you can get into. We have many students that do this through our engineering school, through our engineering pathway, to go in to Ms. Stockdale, I'm blanking on the word for it.
Technical.
Yeah, like a tech college or a technical degree, in which you aren't going to a traditional 4-year college, but you're going out. We actually have a student that's working in the building right now that graduated last year and got a technical degree and is working on our HVAC system, our air conditioning and heating. And he's getting I don't know how much he's really making, but the average person for that's making between $40,000 and $50,000. So that's really amazing to be coming out of high school. I don't know if he's making that right out of high school, but to go right out of high school and do that. So it's about what you want to do for your life plan. So you need to talk to your parents, you need to talk to your counselors, to your teachers, to really make a decision on that. To give you another side, it's a little personal in my life, but I think it's good learning for you all. My wife went to law school. So she went to UK for 4 years and then went to U of L for 3 years. So 7 years of school, and law school is incredibly expensive. Okay. Her law school, she got scholarships, but without the scholarships would have cost over $130,000 to go to school for 3 years at a law school. And that is debt that she's paying off. But as a lawyer, as an attorney, she's making a lot more money because she got a law degree. So she's able to pay off that debt. Okay. So the question is, and what the balance is my job going to allow me to pay off the debts that I'm taking on, or am I able to get scholarships, or am I able to get assistance, or what is my plan? The big thing is have a plan. Okay. So,
and make sure my daughter just graduated high school and thought she was going to go to Sullivan College and study culinary arts. And with the current situation of the world and the cost of education, she decided that she still wanted to be maybe not a chef. Maybe she'd rather be in hospitality management. So don't put yourself into a box, kind of keep things general. You don't know what kind of teacher you want to be yet. You don't know what kind of electrician, if you want to be an electrician, or if you want to be an engineer, or those kinds of things. So anyway, long story short, she's changed her mind and gone into administration for hospitality, like management. So she can go to the community college, and instead of paying $20,000 or $30,000 a year, she's paying $5,000 for a year and living at home with her dad and working with a program called AmeriCorps, and they're going to give her money
that's awesome.
after she finishes a year. So she's being very frugal and thoughtful. Plus she has Keys money and she had some scholarship money. So she's got all that, but I think the bottom line is, don't let the dollar sign of what an education costs necessarily rule you out of following your dream. Exactly. Because if you want it bad enough, you're gonna make it happen. And sometimes you have to incur a little bit of debt so that in the long run you can make like Mr. Richard's wife. You have to go into debt to earn the money. Like your job's going to offset that. So anyway, and that's like education has programs for teachers to offset costs of their loans sometimes in different areas. So don't feel like you're cornered in. And then the other thing I wanted to say about technical is I used to teach at a technical school, and they did auto, electrical, welding, all those kinds of things. There are students that I had 2-3 years ago that are making more money than I am. And they are working in industry. They are working in power plants, where I'm from up north, it's on the Ohio River. There's lots of power plants. There's lots of factories. And all of these, like if you all have heard of Dow Corning, probably heard of Dow Chemical, maybe. Dow, Kentucky Rural Electric. So they're working in these places, and that the workforce is starting to flip over. So people are retiring. So they're going to have about an 80% turnover of the workforce there in these factories. And they're going to need new people.
Yeah.
And they want new people that are ready to work, and they're willing to train them. So like my daughter's boyfriend went to this technical school. He's working on his master electrician, but at the same time, Dow hired him, put him in a scholarship program where he could go and get paid for school. So they're paying for his tuition. They're paying him an hourly rate to go to school. And then he's working so many days a week. So there are lots of opportunities out there. You just have to seek them out, and you got to talk to people. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't really want to go far away, I want to stay home, I want to do something in HVAC, or I want to do something electric, I need to find that graphic. I have a graphic in my computer of jobs that don't require a full 4-year college degree and what the income rates and levels are. And then you can look at that information, give it the crap test, which it would fail because it's just like a printout that says, this is what people make. It doesn't really cite any sources or anything. But you can look at that and then compare it to what the BLS.gov has. And you can say, oh, well, these numbers are kind of accurate, or, oh, it's crap. You can kind of gauge it from there. So,
and Ms. Stockdale, if you find that, send it to me. We'll put it in Echo as a resource. So, and this is the great thing about project-based learning is as you all ask questions, we'll dive deeper and we'll be able to talk about this. The biggest thing that we want to say is, and thinking about this project, is now's the time to start thinking about it. You don't have the answers, nor should you have the answers as a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, however, 13-year-old, some of y'all are younger. You don't need to have those answers right now, but you need to be thinking about them. That's why we're doing this project. It's real world. It's important. Be thinking about it. Okay. So getting back to our benchmark 3, what we're looking for is the minimum. So we're looking at this question. What does it mean for minimum requirements or education to get into the schools? How do I get into college or training program, test scores, GPA, application? And all I did is I went to the college website. So I'm doing EKU, and I just searched up here minimum requirements. Okay. So it can go through and say how to apply. You need 23 hours or fewer from a graduating high school. So you have to graduate from high school. Okay. The next is a student's considered as a freshman. You don't have to worry about that. But here you go. You can see this. Below are the requirements for admission to the university as a freshman. Okay. A 2.5 GPA or higher from high school. Okay. So a 2.5 or higher GPA. And we'll talk about how to calculate your GPA later. But essentially a 2.5 is like A, B's, and C's. Okay. You avoided D's and F's. Okay. A few C's. Success first admission, usually you can get down as low as 2 to 2.4. But you can see there's no ACT score on here, okay? So I want to know what my ACT score would need to be. So I can go outside and I can say of this, and I'm going to go to Google, and you can do extra research like that, and you can say Eastern Kentucky University minimum ACT score. So ACT is a test that's given nationally, and we can see from, okay, so this is actually from their Eastern Kentucky University website. This is the administration, and it is a 20 to 26 for the year of 2018 to 2019. So a minimum of 20. Okay, so I need an ACT score of 20 to get into EKU. So going back to the benchmark, so it's okay to go outside of it a little bit because Google can help you get past those. So you know the minimum GPA is a 2.5 and the minimum ACT score is a 20. Okay, so let's keep going. Some of the schools that y'all looked at, it's going to be a lot higher, maybe a little bit lower. EKU is actually a pretty easy school to get into concerning those requirements. Now, to actually get into the education program, and then you don't have to get this deep, I needed a 26 on the ACT to get into the education program. Okay, so something to think about. So the last one is your hiring website. Okay, that is going to be the Indeed.com website. Some of y'all went out and found other websites that were hiring for that, but let's look for Indeed.com. Take a look at that example. And I look for teacher. So let's say I wanted to do this English. Oh, that's Saudi Arabia. I don't think I want to do that. Not today. I'm just looking for one that has some detail. So let's say we found this one, and it has some information in here. Okay, so I'm looking at this information, and I'm trying. And this is probably the resource that's going to be kind of the toughest to find, like really concrete information. I just want you looking at job requirements and stuff like that to be thinking about it. So it says job experience required. So I'm going to look through here, and it's going to say requirements are valid Kentucky teacher certification for elementary school, experience with students in the area of certification preferred. So I go over to benchmark 2 and say, I must have a teacher certification and experience teaching children. Doesn't have any years or any requirements. Some might say you need 5 years experience or so on and so forth. So key skills or strength. Let's see if it says anything. It says job or description, knowledge of. Okay, so knowledge of would be my strengths, okay, or my skills, okay. I need knowledge of, so I can go in and type about basic computer skills, policies for activities, curriculum, instruction assessment, the ability to record and keeping or make records and keeping them, so on and so forth. So good oral and written communication skills, so on and so forth. So let's go back. Certifications, job posting might not have this. So certification, it says that I need a teacher certification. So I have to be certified as a teacher to do this. Some jobs won't have job certifications, but look around for it to see if then you need that. And then personal attributes necessary for the job. I'm looking at, so it's probably the knowledge of, I have good oral and writing communication skills, good record keeping skills. Those would be the skills I'm looking. So you kind of have to look through them and find it. So as far as grading goes on this, the more you need enough information here to answer these bullets. The first section should be easy for you all because these sources do a really good job. The second section, a little bit more difficult because you're going to have to dig a little bit, but I should see you finding those answers there. The third section, I'm more flexible on that because it depends on the job hiring. So find what you can, do your best with the fourth one. As long as you're putting some effort here, I'm going to be okay. All right. So we went a little long on this explanation of this, but we really got into some good topics about your future. So this is not due until Monday, and I'll give you all a little time on Monday to do it. My goal for you would to be get done with the first section and get started on the second section, okay? So you got about 40 minutes left in class, 30 minutes. So definitely get the first section done and get started on the second section, and then I'll give you more time to make sure you're finished with this on Monday. So if you don't have any questions, you are free to go. I will be in the Google Meet for the rest of class and look forward to talking to you guys if you have questions. Thank you all.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's your question?
So what's the first what's the first one I have to do? Or like what's the
First website?
Yeah, or like you said that we have like 2 or 3 like sections.
Yeah. So the first section here is career and skills needed for the job. Okay, so that's the first section. So that's source number 1 and 2 is the first section. The second section is your college source, which is this one right here. And then your third section is the hiring website section. Does that make sense?